Hi guys, Mark here for KetoKitchenCollection.com, and today's question is coming from Dan from the United Kingdom. Thank you, Dan. The question is, can I drink a protein shake while on a ketogenic diet? And generally speaking, the answer is yes. There's no problem with that as long as you don't go overboard, but there are a few things that we really need to keep an eye on, some very important things to make sure that we maintain ketosis as thoroughly and easily as possible. So first of all, with the protein shakes, typically they'll come as a powder in a packet or some kind of commercial container in a commercial blend, and you'll mix the powder in water and drink it down, so no problem there. But you do need to look at the label before you buy. You can't just get any old protein shake, and you absolutely cannot, just because it's got keto written on the front, doesn't mean that these companies have your best interest at heart. There's keto protein powders out there that have got sugar in them, okay? You must read the label. Please read the label. I really need to drum that in. You'll see on the label, you'll see the amount of protein, whatever it is. Generally, the higher the better. You don't want to go overboard with protein, but we will talk about that in just a moment. Fat content, the higher the better. If there's more fat in it, it'll probably taste better. And of course, when we're in ketosis, we're running on fats, dietary fat, also our body fat, but you do need a certain amount of dietary fat. So if there's a lot of fat in these protein powders, it's good. Don't worry about that at all. Carbohydrate content. This is where it can get a bit tricky. In simple terms, if the carbohydrate content is low, I don't think you'll ever find it zero. I might say it's less than 1 gram per serve or 2 grams per serve. That's fine. Don't sweat that. As long as the protein's high and the fats, it doesn't have to be super. It never really is super high in a protein powder, but as long as the carbs are low and the protein's high, that's generally good. The tricky part comes in when you see the other ingredients. Don't just look at the nutrition label, look at the ingredients list. And if you see things, it's in a category of foods called sugar alcohols. For all intents and purposes, you can kind of assume that they're derivatives of carbohydrates. So examples of sugar alcohols are sorbitol, maltitol, glycerol. They're put in these commercial protein blends just to help sweeten them up, to make them taste better, which is a good thing because some of them really don't taste good. The problem is that these sugar alcohols do have a calorie content. So they're derivatives of carbs for all intents and purposes. I won't get too sciencey on that. A carbohydrate has 4 calories per every gram of carbohydrate. The sugar alcohols have maybe 50 to 70% of the calories. So maybe, say 2 to 3 calories per gram of the sugar alcohol. So you are going to get extra calories that will not be included in the calorie total on the nutrition label. All right, so there's the tricky bit that you need to look out for. It gets worse. The sugar alcohols can give you an insulin response, just like carbohydrates can. Now, to what degree will they give you an insulin response? Look, to be honest, I'm not sure. I've tried to find scientific studies on these things. I've tried to research it and look through all different reports and papers on it. I haven't been able to find anything definitive for any specific type of sugar alcohol to say it's got, the equivalent insulin spike potential of any other given carbohydrate, or I haven't been able to find them listed on the glycemic index anywhere. So if all of this is starting to sound a little bit too sciencey and technical for you, just avoid sugar alcohols in the ingredients list. If your protein powder that you're about to buy shows anything like sorbitol, maltitol, glycerol, and if you don't know, if it's got something you're not sure on, just Google it. Put glycerol. Does glycerol give an insulin response? The first answer will tell you, does glycerol have a calorie content? The first answer will most likely tell you. You'll be able to figure it out very quickly. And it's important that you understand what's on the label. You read what's on the label and you understand what's on the label before you start taking these supplements. Now, there are things like sugar alcohols. I believe polydextrose is one that does not have an insulin response and does not have any calorie value to it, but it is used as a sweetener. I've seen it as a sweetener in some extremely low-calorie chocolate, which is great. So, again, you need to educate yourself just on the fly while you're looking at the label, you're looking at the packet. Look at the ingredients list, not just the nutrition label. Look at the ingredients list to see what's in it, because there are those hidden nasty things that you really need to be aware of that can make just maintaining ketosis that little bit harder, and it's just extra effort you don't need. So the other problem, or there's two more things I want to point out. If you have, if you have a lot of protein in your diet, typical ketogenic diet, you want about 75% of your calories or energy needs being derived from fats and about 25% from protein and, trace carbohydrates, which may add up to, 5% thereabouts. If you start, you actually probably will rack up those 25% of, protein calories quite quickly. So if you go having a big protein shake, you're going to use up a lot of your protein, budget for the day, and it can leave you a little bit stuck for the rest of the meals in the day. If you do have too much protein, what your body will start to do with it is go through a process called gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis is where your body will convert protein directly into carbohydrates and just let them out into your bloodstream for your body to use. Now, my personal experience is that if I've had too much protein, or the ratio of protein to fat starts to get significantly out of whack from that 75% fat to 25% protein ratio, if it starts to go maybe 50-50, I will start to feel that I'm getting maybe not so much an insulin response, but my body will go through gluconeogenesis. It'll convert a reasonable amount of that protein into carbs, and I'll start to get carb cravings. It's like I've eaten an extra, it's very hard for me to put a figure on it, but it's like I've eaten an extra 10 or 20 grams of carbs, and my brain's going, hey, I got carbs again. I'm going to start pushing you out of ketosis, and you'll be in that horrible limbo between ketosis and glycolysis, where you want to run on carbohydrates, and you're obviously not giving your body enough carbohydrates to satisfy that need, but your brain's calling out for it, and it's not fun, guys. You don't want to go there. That's the type of situation where you will fall off your diet, and you'll break, and you'll go and get a massive big bowl of cereal and tip chocolate milk all over it, and you'll just go nuts, and you'll ruin the diet. So don't go too crazy with the protein powders. If you're not tracking your calories and your food intake on a keto diet, look, that's fine. Just don't overdo the protein powders, okay? I would absolutely limit it at one serve, one scoop, and go from there and just see how you feel. If you are tracking it, well, that's great. You'll be able to have a lot more control over how much you can or can't have, or how you should space it out throughout the day. Because you could make a protein drink early in the day, and if you go and have a workout or an exercise, maybe have half of it after you have your workout, and then a quarter a few hours later, and then another quarter for after you have your dinner, something like that, and space it out that way. So that's fine. And that pretty much covers off all the points I wanted to bring up about having a protein shake while you're on a ketogenic diet. So just to recap, watch out about all the extra odds and ends that these companies throw in. Don't just read the nutrient label and nutrition label, also read the ingredients list. That's where the real information lies. Watch out for those are hidden carbs that you can find in the protein drinks, and watch out for having too much protein at any one time. Well, not so much at any one time, but maybe in relation to the amount of fats that you're taking in. You want to keep that ratio generally the same as 75% fat in your diet and 25% protein, so that you can avoid the gluconeogenesis, which in my experience will start to push me out of ketosis if I have too much protein. So guys, what's your experience with this? Have you found that if you've had a lot of protein through the day in the form of protein powders, protein drinks and shakes, have you felt any more of a sense of needing carbohydrates because of the gluconeogenesis? Is that something you guys have experienced? I want to hear from you. I want to know what's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you. If you've got any tips or pointers for anyone out there who's also thinking about including a protein powder in their ketogenic diet. And look, for me personally, I typically don't. I won't include a protein powder. When I'm on a keto diet, I don't include protein powders in it, because I find it's a bit too limiting in me being able to have choices of other foods for my other meals, because it just uses up too much protein in one go. So that's why I avoid it. So thank you guys. Thanks for listening all the way through. I do appreciate you and appreciate your time. And again, I'm Mark for KetoKitchenCollection.com, and I'll see you guys on the next one.